Hello and welcome to The Well-Dressed Mind, where we explore the intersection of personal style and professional success. I'm your host, Lindsay Nicholas. In this series, we'll have honest conversations with accomplished individuals, leaders, creatives, entrepreneurs, about how they've built their lives, their careers, and their identities. Because style isn't just what you wear, it's how you show up to the world. It's a signal of self-worth, a reflection of values, and sometimes a quiet source of power. Here, fashion isn't frivolous, it's foundational, and I can't wait to share these stories with you. So today on The Well-Dressed Mind, our guest is Celia Evans. So Celia and I have known each other for several years now, and I'm really excited to dig into this conversation. But just so you know, Celia's background, she's a creative entrepreneur, producer, and global fashion insider. She's known for curating visually stunning events and spotlighting the behind-the-scenes stories of the fashion industry. Drawn to beauty in all forms, nature, architecture, design, and fashion. She's passionate about using shows and media to celebrate creativity and humanize the industry. And some of Celia's career highlights are producing fashion shows worldwide that blend design, music, and film. She leads Planet Fashion TV, a global media brand showcasing designers, events, and cultural movements. She travels extensively, building connections across international fashion communities, and she's dedicated to amplifying designers and artists' stories, highlighting both process and passion. And welcome to The Well-Dressed Mind, Celia.
Thanks.
We're so excited to have you.
I'm excited. I'm super excited.
So we've had Celia. Celia and I have known each other. I think I met you in 2017. You contacted me about doing a showcase in San Francisco.
Right.
My brand at that point was just a little over a year old. And you were kind of my first big break in a lot of ways. So we did the showcase then, and then you invited...
How did we find you?
I don't know.
Carla, there was a girl that worked for me at the time that was always researching brands, and she was always really good at... I try to find people to work for me that are fashion heads that are always discovering what's new somehow. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. You discovered me, and then you took me to New York for New York Fashion Week in 2018.
Yep.
And we did a show. It was amazing. So that was amazing. And then we just did a show yesterday, but we'll get into that a little bit later. So now let's just talk a little bit more about you. So you've always been drawn to aesthetics in so many forms, and not just fashion. So as we talked about, that it's architecture, it's art, like there's so many ways that contribute. How did that love of beauty lead you to build Planet Fashion TV?
It's storytelling, because really originally it started with me being like a basically like a fashion beat reporter, just traveling around to the fashion weeks back to back, New York to London to Milan and Paris, and covering backstage of the big fashion shows. And then meeting jewelry designers and accessories designers and models and whatever it is, and just like these storytelling. Then we got into events because it was sort of like, well, while we're there, in Paris or in London, why don't we, throw something and find a cool designer to spotlight or whatever, and do content around them. And
you were really doing this before a lot of people were doing this. I mean, you've
I
been
really
doing
was.
this for a
now
long
everyone's
time.
Doing.
Yeah.
I always loved Elsa Clinch too.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean? Like, I always really, 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 really loved that show. So
I was so sad when that went off, because I used to do my laundry and I would fold to Elsa Clinch. It used to be on Saturday mornings, I think.
Saturday
mornings at like 10 or 11.
And
I think, if I remember correctly, not to bring in a bad topic, I think it was like Iran-Contra, the Contra came in, and they started taking that time for special reports, and then Elsa Clinch never came back after that. I remember just being, if I remember correctly, that's all in my head, but I think that's what happened. But I missed that show. She was just the most brilliant.
She was just, you know what? She was humble and nice, and then just the way they covered fashion was really like insightful, but also interesting. And so, I always loved that. Planet Fashion has changed through the years, because it was content at first, and then kind of just events, and then it was content and events, and we've done a lot with influencer marketing, so it's dynamic, it's always changing.
Yeah, and it's very, I think all the runway shows that you do are very immersive. Just going back to Elsa Clinch for 1 second, I think Elsa Clinch, and you as well, things that I love is that you don't frame things with a point of view. You let people decide. So you give them the information, you make these beautiful events, but you're not trying to force a narrative down somebody's throat. You're opening up people's eyes to these different fashion shows, different fashion events, making people aware of them, versus trying to say this is what you're meant to think this season?
I mean, for a long, long time, I felt like part of my service in life has been promoting artists. So fashion artists, musical artists,
Yeah.
fine artists. Like, I mean, I've spent many years in, like, that's my way of giving back, is promotion of people's talent.
Yeah. What would you say is the most rewarding thing of what you do? Is it around that, I imagine?
Yeah, that's a hard one to say because I think it's all a blessing, everything. All of it is really worthwhile, Taking it back to just being in service, like that's been the main point of my entire career, I think,
Yeah.
I get along really well with models and hair and makeup team and the whole
Yeah.
and all of the industry. Yeah, I really feel like it's like my job to like promote these people.
And you run a great show. So I've worked with you now several times. And even as I was walking here this morning, so we had our show with you yesterday for Planet Fashion TV at New York Fashion Week. And as I was walking here, just, anytime you're in a big production like that, there was many brands showing yesterday, like it's a big deal and people put a lot of effort into this. You are cool as a cucumber. Things go wrong in every fashion show, I think. I mean, like, especially when you're a producer, yes. When you're a producer, you see things go wrong all the time. You just solve the problem.
Yeah.
There's no drama. How do you do that? Like, how do you see all these myriad of multiple things going on at once and be able to control that in such a cool, calm way?
I didn't used to be. When I first started, you know what? I started giving myself wrinkles from just people would be like, your face is really like, I would be, that scrunched up look.
Yeah.
They're like, is everything okay? Because you look really stressed out. No, like that's the name of the game with production. There's always going to be a curveball or 10. In fact, you have to actually learn to like that chaos.
Okay.
Enjoy being nimble in the moment.
Yeah.
Like if you don't like that, you can't do events or media production, really. You know what I mean?
And thinking quickly, just being able, just going, okay, how do we resolve the problem as opposed to, oh my gosh, there's a problem. It's like that takes 2 seconds. And then you're on to like, how do I solve it?
As a leader, it sets a tone. Yeah. Like it sets the tone for. I've worked with people that are constantly freaking out and whatever, and that like sets a whole like the ambiance of it, or it sets an energetic tone throughout the room. Even if everything is really crazy, or there's like really big problems happening, you just really can't let anyone know, and you have to just solve it and like move forward. I like things to be on time, and I'm a neat freak too. So I like my spaces to be really tidy, and I like things to be on time. You're never going to come to an event of mine where things are late and things are really late. People turn up kind of late and they're expecting for the show to be still happening or whatever, because it's like most fashion shows, even the big productions, are like, 30, 40, maybe an hour late. I'm never late. I just like that's not my thing.
My grandmother used to say, if you're not early, you're late. And I am always on time. When I used to work in corporate, I would give it, if I was running a meeting, I'd give it about 5 minutes before I lock the door. You need to be on time, So I'm going to segue. So you've worked in a lot of different markets. So you do fashion shows all over the world.
Yeah.
How are things different? Like, what are the nuances? Like, if you're doing a show here, if you're doing a show in Paris or Dubai, or you're doing Swim Week in Miami, like, what are the differences? Or is it really the same? Do you have the same process?
No, it's really different, because with something like Paris, for instance, as things become more high fashion, the difference is in the level of precision. Let's say, I've worked with LVMH, and they are extremely precise. When you're dealing with that level of fashion, that's where that kind of, devil wears Prada stigma or like reputation of the fashion industry of people being like super horrible or whatever. It's because every detail is really becomes more and more important.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. So when you're dealing with like little fashion weeks, let's say like in Oslo, or we did something in Iceland last year, you know what I mean? That's a whole different thing. It's sort of it's like a little laid back affair, because they don't, I mean, they're just trying to get something going, and like it's a really a completely different world. That's a completely different fashion week or fashion show setting than something like in Paris. Okay. You know what I mean? Miami is a totally different aesthetic, because it's like that whole sexy thing. That's not even to me, that's not really fashion at that point. It's like pop culture. And then New York, I think, is a different vibe too. It's sort of a mix. I think New York and London are kind of have become a little bit more pop culture, a little bit like more urban, and they're all really different actually. Not just in the fashion, but in the approach and in the level of seriousness and precision.
I've also noticed this year, and maybe the last few seasons, that back in the day, as you talked about Bryant Park and the tents, it used to be the editors. It was like the people sitting in the front row were people, they were buyers, they were editors, they were real connoisseurs of fashion. They were people that had studied fashion, that really knew, had the history of fashion, knew who the designer was from Celine, from the back in the day. Like they could name every single designer that ever worked for Celine. Then it went to the influencers. And then I think my personal opinion, it over indexed with influencers. And it became a place, I think, if you're a fashion brand, that you're showing on the runway, but there isn't as much of a business return as you would if you're sitting in front of buyers and editors. Now it seems like it's a really nice blend. That's my take, is that I'm seeing you still have people that are, I guess, influencers now, content creators, that you have people that are content creators that are obviously amplifying your message when you do a show, but you're also getting some more of those.
Were you able to meet some interesting people at our show
Absolutely.
yesterday?
You've done so many amazing things in your career. So when you look back at everything, what are some of your proudest moments?
God, there's so many.
Yeah, there's so many.
There's just so many. Like I'm just thinking, we did some stuff with Roberto Cavalli and Lacoste and Levi's, like big brands like that. Going around the world, creating events and filming content in Morocco. We actually did a show in Marrakesh.
Wow.
And then filmed stories about the Berbers and like that their textiles they make, and the argan oil production, which is still done like they did 1,000 years ago, like just grinding the little argan seeds or whatever, and like Oslo, and then being in New York and meeting you, and there's so many great experiences. I'm like such a type A person. It's really hard for me to work for people, so it always served me well to be entrepreneurial. And this business has blessed my life in so many ways, not just monetarily, but just getting to meet all these people from around the world, and the team that I put together of just really kind, sweet, hardworking people, creatives, and working with the big brands and little brands, and it's been really fulfilling.
Yeah. And I do think when you talk about working with beautiful people, you are an absolute beautiful, beautiful person, and you do amazing work. And I am so grateful to have you executive produce our shows. You've just been outstanding and amazing, and we are so thrilled to have you on the Well Dressed Mind podcast.
I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud at your evolution and your.
You've seen it.
You're so much more confident now even than when we started, and your design is like blowing me away, the stuff that you're doing, and I'm really, really proud of you, and I just can't wait to see your brand just get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Thank you, darling. Thank you.